What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, today's guest is a pioneer, is someone that I have a ton of respect for. I've only talked to him a couple times. I can relate to this man a lot, even though we have barely spoken outside of on the phone. He has become someone that I admire. He is not a mentor yet, but I would venture to say that he will become a mentor of mine as we continue to build our relationship. The Blue Collar Success Group, I cannot think of a better person for the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. Kenny Chapman, founder and CEO of the Blue Collar Success Group. He's been in the plumbing industry for a while. He has paved a path for someone like myself to show that the wild, crazy idea for the blue collar workforce or industry, construction, pipeline, plumbing, whatever it may be, the trades industry are not dead. And I would say that they are more alive than ever, and there's more of a need for it than ever. And that's why I'm here. Kenny, that's why you're here. Kenny Chapman, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today. This is a complete honor.
Jacob, man, thank you. It's my honor as well. I'm excited to be here and just excited to share and help your audience realize exactly what you said. And I know you've got a great following, and I know they listen all the time. But the blue collar world is truly where it's at in the next chapter of our economic cycle. And what an exciting place to be in, an exciting time. And I'm just honored to be here on the show with you, brother.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And I want to start off with the blue collar workforce, the future, the next 10 years. I know for myself, a few years ago, I just seen this change in society, this change in college and what college looks like. I know for me, when I was in high school, I graduated 2007, Kenny, and I'll tell you what, they wanted me to go to college. And I remember being ridiculed for not wanting to go to school. I barely made it through high school. I got in a ton of trouble. I didn't fit in anywhere. I couldn't take a test to save my life. And I was very hands-on. I raced motocross. I built cars, painted cars. I was pretty hands-on, but I sucked at all of it. Like, I'll just be transparent. I wasn't good at anything with that, but I was just a little bit nuts, a little bit crazy. I didn't fit in. I couldn't take a test. And I just could not fathom spending $20,000 to go do something I hated. So I went into the workforce at R&R Pipeline, 2007, for $9 an hour with a shovel in my hand. And I figured, you know what, screw it. I can go make 20 grand a year instead of spend it. And my $100,000 in debt will be a house and not college. So I'll actually have an asset. I didn't realize how big that decision was at the time. It was just something where I was almost quitting on school because I'd never fit in. So Kenny, tell me about your experience with that, with the blue collar workforce in the future, where it's at right now, and just what your perception is of this next 10 years.
Yeah, man, I agree. My situation mirrors yours a lot. Same deal. Not good in school. Like just about all of you listening to us right now probably have a very, very similar path and a very similar story. And the difference so I graduated high school in 1988, and the difference from 88 to 07 to today is there's similarities and there's differences. And one is, we're beginning to see more support now for the path that you and I have chosen. And it's because of guys like you and I, Jacob, that are getting out there and speaking about it. I was taught that if I went to Votech, then I was a dumb kid. And instead of, I actually own an education business now. Who would have thought? Like, I barely got out of school and now own a multi-million-dollar training and education company from the trades for the trades. And so, when I think about the blue collar world, we kind of came from low self-esteem because we weren't like the smart kids, put that in air quotes. And we just had to navigate that. Now, part of my mission in life, and I know yours as well, which is why we came together and the universe brought us together, is because there are people now that are saying, wait a minute, what does my life look like? Well, now it's not $9 an hour. Now it's a lot more. And now we can scale quicker because of these opportunities. And so look, I believe that everybody's doing the best they can. The school guidance counselors didn't know any better. The colleges were showing up, and I see it in blue collar industries today. Why are kids still going to school? Because that's the way the system is set up. So we have to be the ones to change it. We have to go get into the schools, have the conversations, show a difference of, well, you can be 250,000 in debt, or you can make 40, 60, 80 grand a year up to 100 by year 5, and then see, whatever that may look like. So there's a major shift. And the first thing that happens, I believe, is asking the question from a place of, what do I really want my life to look like? True authenticity, and knowing that, one of the gifts we have in the blue collar space is we have more specialization. The reason college didn't work for guys like us is because we couldn't go just study one thing. If I could have picked what I wanted, the one thing, which for me at the time, crazy enough, was computer science. I got a baseball ride. I did one semester of college on a baseball scholarship, partied my way out, flunked my way out, and partied my way out and chased girls my way out, which is fine. That's what it was. But if I could have just done that one thing, it would have been different. In the blue collar space, you get to pick that one thing. And if you don't like that one thing, you get to shift, and you get to go, and you bring that experience with you as you evolve within whatever trade you pick, whatever industry you pick, because we're all playing this blue collar game together.
You can navigate your career path and make money doing it instead of going to college and paying to not know what you want to do and just jumping into something because it felt right or because of peer pressure or whatever it may be. I don't know if you've ever seen the old Steve Jobs commencement speech at Stanford that he did. He talks about connecting the dots. I know that you're a strategic coach. We talked about creativity is just connecting the dots basically from things that happened in our past. And Steve Jobs dropped out of college, takes a calligraphy course, and ends up creating now the reason that we have a MacBook, the reason that we have the color scheme. He is one of the most successful humans to ever walk this earth, revolutionized the world, and dropped out of college, picked up an art class randomly. And that's what actually made him successful. And so the flexibility component, like what you're talking about, there's so many different industries. You can be a electrician, you can be natural gas, plumbing, AC, heating and cooling. There's so many different areas. If you're more analytical, you might be more on the computer science side or the database side, the analytical side. But there is an endless opportunity, male and female, to have a life of fulfillment and joy with a team of people that are a bunch of badasses. And just because guys like you and I used to go home muddy every day with our jeans tucked in our boots, and we had to go probably to the hose spigot and wash off real good before we go in the house. And like, where I'm coming at with that. I used to come home covered in mud every day. And it was just part of life. I remember walking into gas stations covered in mud and not even thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
And now when I see them people walking in after a long day's work, shake their hand, maybe buy them a beer, whatever it may be, and say, thank you, appreciate your hard work today. Because so many people look down on that. And the teachers that look down on me not going to school, I didn't understand the financial component of that until I got a little bit older. And I was probably 20 to 21 years old making the same amount of money as they were. And it was like, something's not right here. and as I, go through life, I have spent more time educating me as an individual and me growing in the last, say, 5 years than I had the previous 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
And now I'm obsessed. A lot of that is strategic coach, which I cannot say enough about. Strategic coach
Yes.
by itself is one of the top 5 reasons that I'm sitting here today talking to someone like Kenny. And I'm sure you can relate to that. I know that I heard a podcast with you and Dan Sullivan, and even Dan mentions blue collar in the future and the trades and what's coming out. And we have a really good opportunity to create awareness, to create change, and to get rid of the stigma that the blue collar workforce is just a bunch of bums.
Yes.
Because we are the reason that the world goes around. We are the reason we have roads and infrastructure, and the reason that we're warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And I'm damn proud of it, as I know you are.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't see that, go turn your AC off. Go turn your electric off. You know, if you want to be Amish, go be Amish. But that's about what you have to do to get rid of us and the importance of us. And I say all that to say this. The way the world is changing, I'm embracing it, because one thing about change is it's inevitable. The only thing that stays the same is change. And the future workforce doesn't come close to the future work that is going to be there in the future. So the volume of work is at 100 and the workforce is at 10, maybe. So what do you think is the best route to get the workforce up closer to the volume of work? And what things have you seen from a culture perspective that work, and then what don't work?
I think, you know, I go back to that one of my laws, and I wrote a book called Blue Collar Success Laws, and law number 1 is authentic abundance. And I just stick with authenticity. When you see cultures, one of the reasons that the workforce is down from demand, it's doing 2 things. Like, more people are starting to not go to college, so that swing has begun. However, to your point, the demand for blue collar industries is scaling, and my friends, we're just at the tipping point, because we have this little friend that has become not just a cell phone now, but this AI thing is going to completely upend a lot of white collar world, where now that's going to compress that space very radically and create more and more opportunities in the blue collar world. And so everything, which is to your point, you can't have AI without blue collar. You just said it. Like, you can't have data centers, you can't have any of the things that make the world go round. And I think we're just at a time in our socioeconomic cycle where, because so much has been offloaded now, because remember, blue collar used to be a sought after thing back in the 20s and the 30s when we were building during the Industrial Revolution. Absolutely. And so we're seeing this shift again. And I subscribe to the fact, I don't believe that history repeats itself. I believe that human behavior repeats itself at a different time. And I think that's what we're having now, is there's a rise and a shift. And I think as we better educate, and as the companies that we run, we embrace the authenticity of the individual. Of, if you want to be yourself, then come and be yourself. And you get to, to your point, you get to come in and put in a quote honest hard day's work, and you get to go home and you get to feel good about what you've done. And you're making progress, whether you're on the end of that shovel. We need people on the end of that shovel. And some people want to stay on the end of that shovel their entire careers. And that's great.
That's awesome.
That's 100% fine. And it's taken me a long time to embrace that. Some people want to do what they want to do, and that's magical. And if you want to go to college and that's your thing, then go do it and be that. my pendulum swung all the way the other side. I was like speaking out against college and screw them and they're screwing you. Like I went through that phase and I'm through it. We need doctors and I won't say we need attorneys. No offense, attorneys listening, but we need less attorneys, more specialized. I'll say it that way. But again, my perspective, don't shoot me, but we do need specialization that college offers. It's just not a blanket answer that our society has taught. And that conversation is beginning to be had. Keep having it, ladies and gentlemen, keep having it.
I talk about success criteria and individual success and what success looks like to you. So what does your perfect day look like? What is success? And for me, it's the 4 freedoms by 40. I'm 35 now, 4 freedoms by 40. And strategic coach reference, Kenny, you know exactly where I'm at with that. But it doesn't have to be a crazy, wild entrepreneur that wakes up at 3 o'clock, sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night, and just go all the time. I don't advise people to live the way that I do. I actually advise against it because sometimes it's not the best life as far as what it can cause to you. And I'm sure you're right on board with that. And figuring out what makes you happy is the end all be all for me and what I'm here for. If you want to be a member of your community, a school teacher, a secretary, a doctor, attorney, whatever it is, go do it. Don't apologize for it. You want what you want, as Dan Sullivan says, and it's okay. But just know if you're uncertain, going to college probably isn't the best. If you don't want to go be a doctor or a lawyer, for me, I actually applied to Ohio State. I was going to go for business management. And I thought, why would I spend 20 grand a year for business management when I can just go work and learn more about the business? And so that's what I did. And I never went to college. I'm not ever going to apologize for it. Now, there's obvious flaws that I have. My grammar's like a 3rd grader. I'm unorganized dumpster fire. It's okay, though. I know what I have, what I don't have. I know my strengths and weaknesses. And anything I'm not good at and I don't like doing, I just won't do it.
Yes.
I'm working toward that unique ability only as far as my action on a daily basis. And just trying to figure out from a young age, there's so much pressure on teenagers and instant gratification. You don't have to figure it out now.
Yes.
You have time. And understanding that if you're 25 years old and you don't know what you want to do with your life, you're probably in the 90 percentile of everybody else in the fucking world.
Yeah. That's
Nobody
right.
really hasn't figured it out for a long time. I've been fortunate, to figure it out somewhat young, but now I want to give back because I know how miserable that was when I didn't know. And I figured it out fairly early. So I just want to empower people to know that whatever you want is okay.
Yes.
And you don't have to make anybody else happy except for yourself because you have to live with yourself. And no matter what, if you set yourself up to be successful internally and externally, the person that you become to achieve the success you desire will ultimately be the win.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a superhero. I used to look up to a certain individual and up until I was about 20 years old. And then I realized, you know what? If I look up to anybody else, I can be let down and disappointed. I'm not in control of the outcome. So now my superhero is me, but it's not me today. It's me in 10 or 15 years. I strive to be that person in 10 or 15 years. And if I do what I do today and tomorrow and the next day to get to that point, nobody could ever have a bar as high as mine. So I have to become my own superhero. And I feel like it's a blessing and it's a curse, but I feel like I have to try to help other people in this immediate time because our industry is desperate for it.
Yes.
You talked about the Great Depression era, the 1920 and 30 time frame. I don't know if you've ever heard this or not. I pieced it together a couple years ago after talking about the last 90 years and what was to come with AI in the global economy. We talk a lot about a scarcity versus abundance mindset and coach. We have a abundance of resources today. We have a scarcity of drive mindset, essentially. 90 years ago, the Great Depression, everybody worked their ass off. 16-hour days were normal. Most people today think of a 16-hour day as unfathomable or a week of work. So we didn't have any resources then in the late 20s and 30s. Everyone was fighting for survival. For 90 years after that, Kenny, I connecting the dots in my own way, being young, but such a prideful industry that we're in, construction.
Mm-hmm.
The guy wants to be up on top of the hill. He wants the crown. He wants all the credit. Rugged individualism would be at the forefront of explanation for that. And I just think, from the Great Depression to now, it's really 3 generations if you think about it. And over the last 3 generations, I grew up in this pride, cutthroat, I'm the man industry. Nobody was a collaborator. It was all competition versus your teammates competition. It never made any damn sense to me.
Yeah.
And so now, 90 years later, the table, I think, is starting to turn, kind of like what you said, where people repeat themselves as much as or more than history does.
Mm-hmm.
So now I feel like we have such an abundance of resources. You can go get food on any street corner. There's readily available anything instantly right now. But the mindset and the drive and the determination factor is gone.
Yes.
So in the last 90 years, we've flipped the table a lot. And now it's a lot more of a partnership, of a collaboration effort to get the work done. Because to me, the competition is the gap in workforce, like for the work to be completed.
Yes.
The competition is not me versus Kenny.
You're right.
We have to work together to get the ultimate goal achieved. And so I always talk about with our customers, like, we're on the same team, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, you pay us, we provide you a service, but we are on the same damn team. If we fight each other, we're not going to get the work done. It's only going to make the issue bigger. But there's this really interesting shift, at least in the niche that I'm a part of, where that older school generation, that rugged individual, is kind of going to the wayside. It doesn't have as much respect because the younger generation's coming up and looking at it from a different perspective. Well, shit, I can't do this by myself. There's no way. Yeah. Let me team up with these 4 or 5 guys over here. We'll take all of our companies, do a joint venture or partnership of some sort, and go get all of it done. We all make money. And ultimately, you're going to make more money because you're going to get the opportunity and you're going to get the work done.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've ever heard it framed that way, but today I see a bigger gap. And I think it's only going to get worse because AI is doing something for us that we probably desperately needed together because of what we didn't have. And that's processes and systems. Everything's going to be streamlined. If it's not already, it will be in a couple of years where you input information, it goes exactly where you need it, and you only pull it when you need it, and it's instant. Where before it's Excel spreadsheets and bids and all this, but it's all going to be automated very quickly. And that's where I see this huge advantage coming up in the next, look at it from now to 10 years from now, is the thing that's really pained a small contractor like R&R Pipeline. You probably had some of this in your plumbing business. The things that really set us back were analytical decisions to be made, the data component, the systems and processes, because we didn't do good with that stuff. So I know that was a mouthful, but with everything coming together, what's going to be the thing that ultimately takes AI, the workforce, and gives us this platform to get the work done, but then also do it efficiently, safely, with a good quality product, and not have to be cutting cost as far as the price.
Yes.
Because in the past, that's been the thing. We cut our way to the bottom and there's nothing left.
Right.
And it drives me crazy.
100%. I think you've touched on it. I believe that the connectedness is what has been missing. We've been in competition rather than connecting. And I believe that because as an industry, and I'll just say the blue collar industry in general has had, because it was baked into us, we have low self-esteem as an industry. So if I have low self-esteem, then I'm not valuing myself or my services enough. Therefore, it's quick to cut price. So even if I value myself a little bit more, but then this other person over here. So to your point, it's been a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing. And it would drive me crazy when I owned my plumbing company. You look at attorneys and go, oh, Jacob's an attorney and he's going to charge $5,000 for this product or what project. And I go, well, Jacob's a good dude, but I'm as good as Jacob. I'm going to charge 5,500 or 6,000 from that framework. Put it in my plumbing business, same deal. Be like, oh, we can do it for $5,000. And then the next guy's like, well, I can do it for 3,500. Not even like 500, like, holy cow, And so that's been going on for sure. And then there's the mental fortitude that it takes to be proud. Like, we've got a hashtag blue collar proud that we put on our stickers, and our logo is a collar that's a blue collar that we're proud of that, because in my past life where I owned my plumbing, heating, air business, I was a member of the country club because I played a lot of golf and I liked golf. But I felt it, and I saw how accountants, attorneys, different professionals, or God forbid, financial planners or bankers would look at me because I own a plumbing company. I shouldn't be at the country club is kind of how it felt, brother. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work for me, because you can't have the country club without the trades, and you can't have the bank, and you can't have the attorneys, and you can't have the accountants, and you can't have the doctors. You can't have the colleges. And so it's time to shift this as we are. And that's why we're having conversations mm-hmm. like this. And I think from that, then we get to go to get out of other people's games. My mentor and your mentor, Dan Sullivan, taught me early on, don't create a game that you can't win. We're walking around in a society where everyone else is playing and I'm generalizing here, mm-hmm. but most people are playing somebody else's game that they saw on a TikTok or Snapchat or social media or whatever. I'm not on social media other than our company, so fill in the blank to whatever platform, but we're going and doing these things. That's what we did with college. And now, to your point, you can go make 60 grand a year, live low debt. And I'm not talking about like we're not chopping our way to the bottom or saying, hey, don't go make money. I want everybody to be wealthy, happy, wealthy, mm-hmm. wealthy, wise. Go make it, go earn it, go do your thing. But don't trade your happiness for it. And where if I saddle myself with debt, then I'm going to be a good citizen or whatever the case may be. But rather have enough confidence to go, hey, I'm going in the convenience store with the mud on my boots, or in my case, I started as a drain cleaner, so it was dark and brown, but it wasn't mud on my boots. So I might have got looked at a little bit differently because they didn't just see me coming. But
no, they smelled you a mile away.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But be proud of that and design the life that you want to design. And the cool thing about the blue collar world is we'll pay you while you figure out who you are.
Yes.
Who on the planet knows who they are when they're 18, 19, 20, 21? Mm-hmm. I dropped out of college. I went in the military. I needed a few years to figure out who I was. I'm 53 years old. I still don't know who I am. I'm still learning and evolving. So why not go get paid mm-hmm. while you get to learn and evolve? And that's what I believe continues to close the gap. When people see more and more of that modeling, when we see like, oh, that person did that and that worked, maybe I could go do that too. Keep doing that.
So I want to take a moment and thank you for your service. So R&R Pipeline is a veteran-owned company. My business partner was also in the military. He was in the Army, as were you, I think, right?
Yep.
Army?
Yep.
Yeah. He was in for 4 years, and from 2010 to 2014, that was his college, essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he came from a military background with his dad. His dad was he retired from the military, and that's all he ever did. And me and my business partner worked together for 3 or 4 years. He goes to the military and comes back. I thrive and grow through the company. He thrives and grows in the military. And then we joined forces 2014 and bought the company 5 years later. So I had to make that statement. Thank you for your service. As a veteran-owned business, it means the world to me, and thank you
awesome.
For that. Yeah, so that definitely means a lot to me. It's a soft spot in my heart. Anyone in the military, so it's always something I have to acknowledge. Mm-hmm. You talk about a lot of high quality, authentic, like vulnerability, facing fear. Adversity is something that we've had to face a certain society look or opinion. I remember when trying to buy R&R Pipeline, I don't even want to say it was like an impossible thing or very small chance. It was laughable, quite honestly. As you can see, my logo right here, there's a 37K right there. And that was my net worth. The last PFS I did before purchasing R&R Pipeline was $37,000. And I have that on there as a daily reminder that anything is possible in life. Because with a net worth of $37,000, bought a multi-million-dollar business. Anything's possible. It just takes one person to believe in you. My attorney, Jim Havens, I will forever be indebted to him. He is a father figure, a mentor, and honestly like a best friend of mine. I'll never forget the amount of confidence that he had in us because we knew our business. And he didn't give a shit if we went to college or not. And he actually said that the most successful people that he represents are the ones that did not go to college. They're in the construction, something with blue collar workforce, hands on. And I remember it started to change the paradigm for me a little bit. And then when going to coach has a lot of financial advisors, and there's not very many blue collar, mud heads in there. We'll call them mud heads, whatever you want. But just a good old boy redneck from a small town that busts their ass every day and just is wired so different, can't work for anybody else, because that's how I am.
Yeah.
But when you meet someone in coach that can speak the language that we speak on the coach side and then the construction side, it's so rare that you automatically form a certain bond with somebody.
Yes.
And I know there's a handful of people in coach that, whether it be asphalt, street paving companies, or had construction companies in the past. Our EOS implementer, Ryan Henry, had a construction background in construction companies, and we work with him primarily because of that. It's a very, very special group of people. How do we create awareness for the masses, though, from your perspective? And how do we show what I like to call it awareness? I want to create awareness for anybody and everybody that the way it's always been done is not the best way. If I ever hear, yep, that's the way we've always done it, that's what we need to do, I'm lighting it on fire. I'm looking for a better way right away. Because as you know, more than likely in any type of construction, blue collar business, if it's always been done one way for the last 20 years, it's probably about 19 years outdated. And so as we evolve through AI and technology, Kenny, how do we create awareness for these opportunities for a lot of the white collar people that are not going to have opportunities out there? And how do we show them that, you know what, the $9 an hour in 2007 might have been who I was, but that was just a beginning point to become who I am. And so I know that you're all about coaching with your group. I came up with an idea a couple years ago called the Pipeline of Prosperity. What are you putting in your pipeline to become successful? We have a newsletter. We have a personal development program that I'm putting together. And it's going to be what I think is going to change the industry for R&R Pipeline. It's going to be our separator for the culture and the team that we build. I want to build a team of badasses, complete savage, that figure out that they can be successful and not apologize for it. And they can do it at R&R Pipeline.
Yes.
So I know you've been around so much and you've seen so much with our industry. What do you think is going to really separate that older generation to newer generation or mindset? What's going to be the ultimate factor that determines success? Because there's so many variables here.
Yeah, I think there's you hit on it with the awareness component, and I think that I believe that there's three truths. There's your truth, there's my truth, and then there's the truth, right? And I think that's what we're seeing, where some of the, say, older generation, and now approaching my mid 50s, maybe I might be considered that now. I don't know where I'm at in my journey because I'm going to play the game a long, long time. But I know when I started as a 23-year-old entrepreneur and I've never had a job since, I get it. And I used to kind of fight against the older generation. The older generation kind of fights against the younger, in the plumbing trade, like, make them go find a tool that doesn't exist, stuff like this, right? Yeah. What in college they call it hazing or whatever, right? We do the same, the same thing has happened. Again, human behavior, just different platforms. But what we're starting to see is there's a forced awareness that's happening. So I might not have chosen the AI interruption, let's say. I'm grateful and embrace it. But let's say if I'm in a white collar job in my middle to late part of my career, I might not pick that. However, now what's happening is, like in the blue collar success group, some of our clients that are having the most success and growing the fastest are adding people that are coming from either they went to college, they even already have the college debt, but they're going, I don't want to do whatever fill in the blank that I got my degree for. Mm-hmm. Or how many of you on the line go engage in a nice conversation with a barista or somebody that's a great server and go, oh, how long have you been here? Oh, I graduated from fill in the blank high level university, and I'm serving now because there's no work in my. These are where we bridge the gap. And so now I'm seeing CFOs, high level accountants, CPAs that are going to work for our clients because they're going, there's a future there. My trade, hey, we need badass CFOs. We need badass attorneys. We need badass healthcare people. But now they're just going to start coming into our fold a little bit more, back to what you said early on, where we as a time, and I'll call myself a Gen Z, Y, millennial. I don't need a label of my generation. What I know is I'm a collaborator. So we'll take somebody and let's go, hey, let's figure this out. Let's see, you and I will have future conversations. How do we collaborate and reach more people? And because we're in this space together and we're all playing the same game. And so now when we see attorneys that were in, big firms or whatever, jumping ship to go to work for a trade contractor. We see people that got out of school and went for, a fill in the blank of a normal college degree and go, hang on, wait, I could go become an apprentice at something and start learning. And I still have my debt. I can't get rid of that. Although, hell, at the time we're recording this, maybe the government will take it away for you. Who knows? But that's shame on me. Yeah. Sidebar. So no, anyway, right. But regardless, like, you still have the debt, but you're still building your life. And I think what we're seeing now, regardless of age, people are starting to go, what do I want my life to look like moving forward? And when you said it, your mentor is or your hero is Jacob in 10 to 15 years. I think we're starting to see that. And people of my age group or older, we're old enough to remember when the technology revolution was supposed to free up all of our time. And we were supposed to be sitting around drinking coffee and working 3 hours a day. And now we work more. We're unhappier as a society. We're fatter as a society. We have more health conditions than we've ever had. Longevity's on a decline, although there's a movement now taking place. So what we know is it's not the tech. And we've learned that. Well, we've been presented the opportunity to learn that. So now AI, a lot of us are looking at AI through a different lens than we did, say, computers. Or certainly cell phones, like, oh, this device is giving me freedom. No, the device is giving you massive distraction. AI is going to do the same thing. It's going to give you an opportunity to free up time. But if your human behavior doesn't take a step back and be present, then you're going to end up in this treadmill that there's no way to get off.
So good. I look at it like an accelerator. I'm going to Chicago for my coach. I can walk to coach, I can drive there, or I can hop on a plane. And AI is nothing more than the car to plane. It's just the accelerator. I'm going to get there faster. It's going to be more convenient, but it's not going to take the work away. It's not going to get rid of the problem that we have. It might get rid of some pain points. It might get rid of certain things, but we're going to face additional challenges that we probably don't even see yet.
Yeah.
I think we could both agree that the biggest challenge is the workforce. But there's going to be other challenges. It's just inevitable. It's just part of the business in itself, because there's one truth to this, Kenny, that cannot go away. And it is what we do for this nation, we will always have in place. AI is never going to replace our heat and our cooling, our sanitary, our water. AI is not going to take all that away. There's still got to be men on the ground, women on the ground, working with their hands
Yes.
to keep the infrastructure in place for society to go.
Yes.
That's as real as taxes and death.
Yes.
And so, understanding that, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. The Blue Collar Success Group is all about coaching, collaboration, training, helping other people out. And the Pipeline of Prosperity is very similar to that. It's our own internal system, but it is about success criteria. So what do you want your life to look like? I call it the hamster wheel of misery, the bureaucratic hamster wheel. People wake up every day, hate themselves when they look in the mirror and brush their teeth, if they brush their teeth. They put a cigarette in their mouth and they probably got a couple teeth missing, so they can just place it right inside that little slaw in their mouth. And they just hate everything that they do. They're miserable from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. I've seen it progress so much because of bad health. You focus on illness or you focus on wellness. If you focus on wellness, you still may have illness. The chances go down a lot. If you never prioritize wellness, though, it's inevitable that at some point you're going to face an illness. And that illness, when faced, will be 10 times harder than it would have been if you would have just taken little steps daily to not put yourself in that position. And I know we talked about this the last time that we had spoke about health. So the iron and infrastructure business came about because the iron from heavy equipment and weightlifting is what built my personal infrastructure and really built my infrastructure in a business perspective as well. And so creating awareness for health. I'm not going to sit here and tell people to go be a vegan or eat this diet or do this or train like I do. I don't advocate for that, but just be aware of what you're consuming and what it does.
Yes.
Instead of that Mountain Dew and donuts for breakfast, let's drink a damn water, with your black coffee and make a better choice for something of food to eat in that morning. You'd be amazed at the mental cognitive function that someone is unaware they don't have the ability to operate with. I know for me, if I don't eat right, 2 to 3 days of bad eating, it is glaringly obvious how much it affects me.
Yes.
So many people are not aware of that, though, Kenny. And I know that you spoke on this a little bit, but what have you seen through the years from a health and wellness perspective in our industry that's just absolutely detrimental?
Yeah. Well, I think, the waking up to what is really going on is a big part there. And I'm not talking like conspiracy theory. What I'm talking about is go into that convenience store that we wore our boots into, and you've got maybe one section of water, which now has a bunch of flavored crap in the water as well. However, you've got 3 refrigerators, full-on fridges of Monsters and Red Bulls and energy drinks and all the different stuff. And you've got one little section of water, and then you get into the alcohol. And so the odds are, against you when it comes to what's being forced at you nonstop. There are billions of dollars being spent every day to keep you in lack and unhealthy. And now that sounds like a negative statement. It's not negative. Everybody's doing the best they can, and businesses are just growing companies for their shareholders. That's fine, whatever. However, it does not let you off the hook of taking responsibility of your own understanding. If you want to drink the Red Bull, understand what's in it and what it's going to do to your body and how you're going to feel 30, 40, 60, 80 minutes after you drink it, so on and so forth. The same thing with beer, same thing with hard liquor, same thing with weed, whatever it is, making conscious choices for you. It goes back to when I said get out of everybody else's game. Everybody else's game is let me stop and do this and so on. And so that's where, for me, I was addicted to marijuana and alcohol for 40 or 38 years, something like that, a long period of my life. And I had a goal to burn out before I was 40. I didn't plan to live past 40. And then when I hit 40 and was still alive in this human experience, I went, maybe I could do something. And now I plan to live to be 146. So
damn, I should have taken better care of myself.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but that's where you get to reset the clock. And I believe, I won't go super high level or crazy or whatever, but the day that I got sober, I told my wife, I said, I will rewire my body to where none of my organs will be destroyed from the damage that I've done. I will be able to, and I have better blood. I have better health. I'm better position than I've ever been in my life, ever. I have better body fat. I weigh less. I weigh 15 pounds less than I did in high school. And I was always the fat kid. And it goes back to, I'm not saying if I can do it, anybody can do it, but I'll say if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I was rooted in pain. I was rooted in fear. I was rooted in low self-esteem. So I did all these things trying to get better. For me, I had to find some success in life where I built multi-million-dollar companies and built homes and have all this stuff. And I still wasn't happy. Going back to what we talked about earlier, where we've got to find there's a difference between inner peace and happiness. And so when we start realizing the high, be it coffee, Red Bull, sugar, weed, alcohol, whatever it is, gambling, that whole dopamine that we get from different things, billions of dollars is being spent to keep it in front of you. And you said it right. Like, if I don't eat right, I'll get like depressed. Like, I just don't feel like this isn't me. Wait a minute. I haven't been feeding. And again, my wife happens to be vegan, gluten-free at the time, and has been for about a decade now. I'm not. I eat that way a lot, but I just choose to eat what I want consciously, knowing that I'm going to throw down a couple slices of pizza today. I better extra work out, better position myself, better know my calorie count for the day, so on, whatever it is, right? Just be mindful, people. Be mindful.
Yes. You touched on so many good things, and it's an amazing thought, but everybody thinks that I need to go all in. I need to 100%, and I need to do this extreme workout 7 days a week, no days off. It never works.
No.
It never works. It takes years to be able to develop a calloused mental state that you can do something day after day after day consistently.
Yes.
And so I never advocate for someone to try to do what I do, because I've been doing this essentially for 20 years. I was the fat kid growing up. My nickname was the damn doughboy. But I was the doughboy at a young age. I would eat a whole entire tray of cinnamon rolls until I quite literally would puke. I could not stop. I don't know why, but I couldn't shut it off.
Yeah.
And when I became a teenager, I got my ass kicked. I was overweight. I hated who I was. Yeah. I got my ass kicked, so I turned to the iron. I turned to the weightlifting. And then it started slowly building confidence and starting to give me a blessing in disguise I never knew that I needed, was the delayed gratification. Do something hard every day and you don't see a return on investment for months. And it changed everything over that course of 20 years. And now, whenever someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Kenny, it's been unfathomable to think that I'm going through the transition now," but probably 10 to 15, maybe even 20 guys that I have been fairly close with in the last, just call it 10 years, whether working internally at R&R Pipeline or for our customers, have passed away from poor health. Diabetes, high blood pressure. There's a few from COVID, but they had health issues before. Yeah. And it could all be preventable. And I remember talking to some of them about it, like, man, that Mountain Dew, that 12-pack of Mountain Dew a day, and the donuts for breakfast, the Taco Bell for lunch, like, that shit's going to get you.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like looked down upon. So I had actually done a bodybuilding show. I was in a hotel 6 days a week, cutting for a bodybuilding show, did a 12-week diet, lost 40 pounds, got up on stage, and I took 1 day off of work on the Friday. I went home the Friday before the Saturday show, because that's when I started cutting water out for the show. And I would just remember how much ridicule I was getting for doing that. I'm like, why are these guys giving me hell when I'm trying to do something great? I'm trying to do something rare. And it started to create this stigma that's not the life I desire to have. And I don't give a fuck what they think. I'm going to do life on my terms, because I know how good I feel, and I see how bad they present themselves to feel.
Yeah.
And now I'm in this really unique spot where, under 40 years old, this year alone, diabetes, like massive diabetes issues, 2 or 3 heart attacks, high blood pressure is common. And these are people that are internal.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, we got to get this shit under the wraps.
Yes.
Like it is going to, if it's not fixed when it's first recognized and it's just a pill, you're literally putting Band-Aids on broken legs and it's going to just collapse.
Yep.
And so I see now the compound effect of bad habits and know how powerful the good ones are. It can go either way. You're either consciously focused on wellness or unconsciously focused on illness, and the timetable is just delayed. And creating that awareness factor is that's why I frame it from the awareness perspective. So whenever I'm talking to people, I say, try this out for 21 days, 5 push-ups, 5 squats, 5 sit-ups, nothing else. Don't change anything. Just do that for 21 days. And after 21 days, come back to me and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And I had one guy in particular that did it a few months ago. His life has completely changed. His goal ended up being 30 pounds he wanted to lose, and he's already lost every bit of that. And in that 21 days, Kenny, he probably lost 15 pounds. He met half his goal. And I told him it's going to take 6 months. But it wasn't from the push-ups and the sit-ups and the squats. It was the mindset.
Yes.
And I wanted him to do that for 21 days just to know I can do something very simple consistently every day.
Yes.
We both know that actual compound effect in 21 days is minimal at best. It's not going to have him lose a lot of weight, but it's going to give him a mental edge that he never seen before.
Exactly.
And then it goes to building muscle. After a certain state, you can only cut your way so far down, and then you got to build some muscle. You got to have, I think muscle is like the organ of longevity. That's how I would frame it. But it's the habit that actually is the thing that leads to the success or the failure. It's not the all-in motivation. Anyone out there that says, oh, I'm motivated, I'm going to do it, horseshit. Yes. Tell me how your motivation works when it gets really hard.
Yeah.
Tell me what happens when you're dinged up and you're injured. Exactly. Motivation can go to hell. Yeah. I'm motivated maybe to do certain things, but my discipline takes over. And knowing that I committed to myself and will not negotiate, the motivation's secondary.
Absolutely.
That's how you feel. Yes. I promise you, at 3 o'clock in the morning, Kenny, 4 or 5 days a week, when I get up at 3, 50% of the time, I can't even fathom getting out of bed.
Yeah.
To say that I actually want to get up and do it would be a damn lie. I'd be a damn fool to say that. But I don't negotiate. I just do it.
Yeah.
And so how do we create that awareness and that change? Because you said you coped with, alcohol, with drugs, and I cope with the iron.
Yeah.
I like bourbon like the rest of, I don't drink beer. I drink bourbon every once in a while. I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
But I know that 3 o'clock, I'm not staying up and drinking too damn much because I got to get up at 3. So I have a social drink on the weekend and that'll be about it. But, it's okay to do some of this in moderation, but just know that compound effect goes both ways, that you can stack a bunch of bad choices up and they can be detrimental. And you can stack a bunch of good choices up that are very small and they can change your life and your family's life because everyone around you sees what you're doing.
Yes.
And it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
So it creates an environment.
It does. And that's the massive compound effect when you start to influence that circle around you. And what you're talking about, it just, I study the subconscious brain a lot. I study human performance. I'm really a geek when it comes to what makes us tick in the human experience.
Me too.
And what, when you prescribe 5 push-ups, 5 sit-ups and 5 squats a day, what we're doing is rewiring the subconscious mind in that process. And then we can say it, but then when we show people the way you do something is the way you do everything. Mm-hmm. And so then it's that, well, I did this for 5 days. Now I'm at the cooler in the convenience store. Maybe I'm going to grab that water, and you don't even realize it. And it starts to bleed over into other things. And then maybe your spouse says something that would piss you off in the past, and this time you just let it go, and all of a sudden it starts showing up, and you're rewiring who you are as a person. Yes. because of, like you said, I mean, motivation. I get coined as a motivational speaker. I learned in the Army, you can't motivate anybody. Drill instructors didn't motivate anybody. They created an environment for soldiers to motivate themselves. I happen to motivate. Yeah. That's it. And that's what we do in cultures. That's what we do in our businesses. And so I think that, when I rewired my subconscious mind in the past, and my morning ritual was where that was the key to my sobriety. And to your point, so to this day, from the day I took my last drink, I have not missed a morning ritual yet. Now I had to build one that worked for me. And you said something very powerful that I think everybody needs to hear again, is that don't go this crazy all in. We watch, why does Planet Fitness, have all of the freaking garb on at the New Year's Eve ball drop stuff? Because the New Year's Day, everybody's going to get fit for about freaking 3 weeks. And then because it's this craziness. So how about just go in with more often? Like my mantra is more often than not. And though it's only more often than not, it's really almost all the time that I eat right, that I work out, that I'm a big yoga guy, that I'll get on my mat, so whatever those things are, just moderation is truly, it's key. So as soon as you tell somebody they can't have something, then the brain is wired to want it right away,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's hardwired this way. So, you're playing the game with yourself, and make no mistake when it comes to health, that I just had a flash to my previous self, almost laughing that I'm talking about health from where I came from.
I love it.
It's hilarious. But here's what I know. You will make time for your health in your life. How do you want to make it? Do you want to make it in 30 to 45 minute stretches a day, 15 minutes a day? Or do you want to get into your 50s, 60s, 70s and lay in hospital beds and spend all the time at the doctor's offices? And, again, we're in a system of what it is. I believe it will revamp, as we're seeing with more private medicine happening that'll influence and so on. But we don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease management system. And so, that's really because we're creating disease and then we're just managing it. And there's a lot of money behind it. And so you've got to take control yourself, do the little, it goes back to that old quote, little hinges swing big doors. The little things you do every day are where the massive things happen. That's absolutely it.
I cannot I cannot double down on that enough. Eat your food as medicine. Otherwise, you will have to eat your medicine as food. And
love that.
It is so true. The delayed response, the unconscious Mountain Dew and donuts eventually become so conscious and right in front of our face that we actually get to a point, and this is the sad part, some people can get out of it and turn it around. Some people can't. Some people it's just too far,
Yeah.
I talk about the simple things. Preparation. Number one for me, the biggest compound effect thing that anybody can do, whatever you're going to eat and drink the next day, have it prepared the night before. For me, I carry this gallon jug everywhere. It's almost like a symbol now. I put aminos in it for max effort muscle and hydration, packets in it. It's filled up the night before. I put it in the fridge. I grab it on my way out to the gym at 3:15. I don't have to think about it. It's just done. My food, it's already done. Whatever I'm going to eat that day, it's already there. A lot of our mistakes are made with a lack of preparation and not being intentional about your preparation. And it's the simple little things. For me, red meat and rice. I'm steak and taters. Like that's all I need in life is steak and taters. I'm good. And I'll eat that shit for breakfast. I don't care because it fuels me to do what I need to do.
Yes.
Stop thinking of food as a treat or a reward. And as a society, we have created this issue ourselves. What do you do at birthday parties? You celebrate with cake. What do you do after a big win or a big event? You go out and celebrate with alcohol. Society has basically made this poison a reward after an accomplishment or an acknowledgement.
Yeah, right.
And understanding that part of it is powerful in itself. There is, though, no perfect diet. There is no perfect training system. It's the one that you will do consistently. The best way is the one that you will do, that you enjoy doing, that maximizes your health, or at least puts it right there on Front Street where you know that I'm doing this to improve my health. It can be just yoga. It can be lifting, like a power lifter. It can be anything.
Yeah.
But being conscious about improving and getting better.
Yeah.
And this goes against what a lot of people would probably say, but I recommend doing the smallest amount of work for the biggest amount of change. Because if you do it the opposite way, if you do the biggest amount of work, eventually that return on investment is not going to be there.
Yeah.
And your output is so high, you're probably going to burn out.
Right.
So start small. If it's 5 minutes a day, sure, whatever. Do that for a month and then knock it up to 7 minutes. And just build the wins by doing it often and frequently and consistently. And I think it's so simple that people overlook it. If someone has 100 pounds of weight to lose because of blood pressure or whatever it may be, it took years to get there. You didn't gain 100 pounds overnight, so don't expect to lose it overnight.
Exactly.
And embrace that part of it. Like, this is a journey. It never ends. There is no destination. It's a continuous improvement effort for the rest of our life.
Yes.
And so just looking at it and being realistic, I use the SMART analogy: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So when you set a goal, just make it concrete, black and white with a timetable there, and be okay with it.
Yes.
And just enjoy the journey. Because I think that is the unspoken success criteria for everybody and anybody. It's not having destination disease. Enjoy the journey. The joy is in the journey. I know for me, my perfect day is right now on this podcast with Kenny, talking about how we can help change the world. This is my perfect day. And tomorrow will be a perfect day as well.
Yep.
And I'm not going to apologize for it. So just figuring out what works for you, kind of like we talked about success earlier.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going to stick to and you enjoy doing, just make it a non-negotiable. Yes. And if you do 21 days, I prescribe 21 days, because after that, if you can do something boring as hell that's not going to give you a return on investment, that you don't really care to do, but it only takes a few minutes. If you get up and just do the thing for the whole 10 minutes it takes to do push-ups and sit-ups and squats, it doesn't take hardly any time, but it builds such a callous mental edge that everything else starts to evolve. And then back to like the AI, your life starts to accelerate and evolve in ways that you can never have imagined.
Exactly. So good, dude. You're absolutely right. I think that, that mental muscle that precludes any other thing that we do. And the clarity, I wrote a book years ago called The 6 Dimensions of Change, and it was an acronym, and clarity was the first dimension of change. And I think when you decide what you want, and going back to our conversation around, whether it's what you want to do in business, who you want to be as a person, what kind of industry you want to be a part of. For now, this isn't a lifetime sentence. This isn't a lifetime decision. You can change. For me, I'm 54. I've owned, 14 businesses and 9 industries. I talk about 2 of them. What does that tell you about the rest of them, right? So, I've learned, they're all learning lessons, all the different things, but we go into this thing of, I'm going to do this kind of workout for the rest of my life. And the brain goes, oh my God, I don't know. And like, no, you got to find, to your point, it's a lifetime journey. Enjoy the journey, but find your dopamine. Dopamine's a part of the brain. So find when you get on the mat, for me, when you get in the gym, for you, and you feel that like, okay, cool, man, this is it. That's it. Not when because what happens for me when I went on a journey where I got sober, and then I attacked my health after that, and so on. And I lost 45 pounds. And each time you hit a weight goal, or you hit a body fat goal, or you hit an income goal, or you hit a travel goal, it lasts about that long. And then the brain goes, okay, cool. What's next? Look at the interviews at the time we're recording this with the Olympics going on. Oh, you just won all these gold medals. What's next? How about I'm going to enjoy the gold medal that I just won? So I think in society, we're just wired so much. So you've got to do it for yourself. If you're going to do it for life, not as a life sentence, but a life journey, like a life exploration, that's what we're here for. Life's just a big school anyway, and we're just being educated, having experiences, learning what it means to us, and create your own. Go figure out the workout that works for you, the eating that works for you, the industry that works for you. But I hope it's a blue collar space. I really do.
Well, and if it's not, enjoy the sidelines, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of opportunity out there for
There
those
you
blue collar
go.
guys. You know,
That's right.
You touched on something about it working for you, and I went through this myself with food allergies and rehab setbacks, anything and everything that probably could have happened in my journey for the last, say, 10 years. I probably endured a lot, and I'm grateful for it. Your lifestyle from a wellness perspective should not be a stressor
Yes.
to your overall health. And finding what you enjoy is extremely powerful, because you're doing something to get better. And if that thing that you're trying to do to get better ends up being a stressor, then it ends up being counterproductive, and it actually
Yes.
compounds the original issue
Well
more.
said.
So tracking macros, I went through a couple of years of that. I tracked everything. I lived off of Apple Watch or a Whoop. I tracked my steps. I was relentless every day. And if I didn't hit my target, I'd be pissed when I wouldn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Well, that's counterproductive.
And then that messes everything up.
And now, because of them hardships, though, I've been able to be very intuitive and know what works for me. And so that's what I just prescribe to everyone. Just find out what works for you. Make a lifestyle out of it. There is no one size fits all.
Yes.
You said like your wife is gluten free. I have a gluten allergy myself. I can eat it, but I know the price of eating it.
Right.
I know I have 15 or 20 different things that I'm allergic to. I'm not going to die if I eat them, but I'm going to know that I ate it. Right. So I choose not to. It's just a conscious choice that I make now, because I want to feel good.
Yeah.
So it's just part of the development. And as we grow, and get older, growing and continuing to get better is one of the non-negotiables for me, as I'm sure it is for you.
Yes.
And I want to wrap up the show today with personal development, one of my all-time favorite topics. It is the thing that changed my life. When I started focusing on me as much as I was focusing on my job, my life changed. My environment changed, because you know what? The environment I was in, I didn't like. And I realized that this spot, this crew of people, this environment is so negative. And the guys that are in it now were there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom being here any longer than I am. So the pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of change. And I'm also writing a book, and I have 3 phases of the framework for the book. The breakdown, so the reality of the current state for anybody listening or reading the book. Break down the issues, the adversity, the fear, the setbacks. What is holding you back in life? That is the first step, the breakdown. So understanding what you can and can't control is also very powerful. So write down every issue that you have, and all the ones that are out of your control, the economy, the tax structure, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Mark them all out. Take all the ones that you can control the outcome, and pick the top 3 biggest impact on your life. The number 1, start with it, and don't go to 2 until that first one's done. Focus on what you can control. But to do that, you have to recognize all of the ego that hides the thing that is ultimately setting us back, the fear, the facing of that reality. It's tough, but it's life-changing. Breaking it down and facing it, and then realizing that this environment I'm in today, if I stay here, it's not going to change me. It's only going to be a negative ROI. So to get out of this, I have to build a bridge away. So the second phase is the bridge. So you have the breakdown and then the bridge, because you want to build away from the place that you're at currently.
Right.
And then the third phase is what I call the build-up, or the highway to success. Individual success criteria, figuring out what it looks like, not having that end in mind, just knowing one general step, one direction to take to get you on that success criteria path.
Yes.
Because as you can probably attest to this, life changes. Things happen. You probably don't know where you want to go at the end, especially after coming out of that bad environment, but you can probably take one step in the right direction and know that that's going to benefit your life. Just a minimal step. Personal development for me allowed me the awareness to know that that's how my damn life worked.
Yeah.
I was in an environment I didn't like. I built a bridge away from it. Now I'm on the path to my highway to success. And I'm never going to leave it. It's just going to my highway is just going to continue to have more lanes. And that's
Absolutely.
it. So for you, personal development, you mentioned the E-Myth. I'm actually re-listening to that book again, probably for the 10th time. Michael Gerber, E-Myth, was the first transformational book for me of understanding that I'm not a manager. I hate managing people. I'm definitely not a technician. I'm a damn entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so like it was very simple concept, paradigm shattering at the time of reading it. So for you, personal development, books that you recommend, how do you do your personal development? When do you do it? Is it part of your morning routine? What's it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a 5-part morning routine. Actually it's on kennychapman.com. It's on my website. I've got it written out there that to me, it's more important than anything other than water that I put in my body. And so for me, it's a necessary part of the daily. And that's why I call it a ritual, because I believe words matter. And for me, ritual, I was raised in a Christian environment. And so ritual has more of a deep meaning to me than routine. So when I was in a time in my life where I needed to commit and stick, I stuck to ritual. And that's where I read and listen to great information. I journal, so on and so forth. And so, to me, like you said, E-Myth is that's a great business book. Some of the old kind of cliche great books of like 7 Habits and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, there's so many great ones out there. And I think that Driven is a great book as well for driven minded individuals, right?
Yes, it is.
The Slight Edge is a really powerful book, which is interesting. I named one of my companies after I called it the Slight Edge because I was a baseball player, and very, very minor difference between hitting for a 300 average and a 200 average, but massive difference in performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that early on in that, I can't say his name of the author of the book, but it's called The Slight Edge. And so, there's a lot of great books, but what I recommend sometimes to people is, it's harder to do online because of algorithms and feeding you things you searched for in the past or whatever. I like to still, if you can find a bookstore, go into a bookstore, even if you're going to do an audio version, and just walk through and see what speaks to you where you are right now at this time. That's how I pick most of my books now. And I'm big on, obviously as Strategic Coach, we get recommendations every quarter, and some I'll listen to, some I don't, some I'll listen to 3 quarters later and go, oh, I think that was recommended. And I never, it's about where you are in your journey, because there's no new information. Whether it's the 7 major religions or the 5 major religions, depending on how you see it, they're all information is there. We're just repackaging. I'm an author. You're about to be an author. We're just repackaging things in our own way, in our own understanding, in our own words, in our own journey. So you've got to find that for our listeners. Just find what works for you and pick something. And again, I'm not going to read, you talk to people, I read 100 books a year. I do this or that. Read a few pages a day, read a page a day, whatever, just like the workout thing.
Yes.
Just put something positive in your mind and turn off the freaking news. Like, stop watching the news. Like, that's
garbage in, garbage out.
That's it.
If you bring in garbage, you're going to continue to put garbage out.
Yeah.
Every time.
And you're going to feel terrible in the process. So yeah.
I love that you said there is no new information. Jim Rohn talked a lot about that. The compound effect, Darren Hardy talks about that. There is a lot of information out there today. A lot of it's a bunch of shit too. And you can attest to that as well. But everything that is created today is just experiences put together. The Iron and Infrastructure LLC is R&R Pipeline and Max Effort Muscle merged together as me just spearheading this thing that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I connected the dots of my 2 passions. That's why we're sitting here today.
Yeah. Right.
There is no new information.
Yeah.
Louis Simmons, who owned Westside Barbell, a gym that I used to train at, one of the most sought after invite only powerlifting gyms in really the world. And he said one day something that completely, it was just transformational to me. And you understand why. Someone was critiquing him for his method. And he took a bunch of different Soviets, the Soviet method and this method and bands and chains and whatever, and made his own. Same as what you have in your life, and same as what I'm doing currently and will continue to do. And he's like, yeah, I didn't invent toilet paper either, but I'm smart enough to use it.
That's right.
And it's so simple, but you think about it, everything that we go through in life and everything that we hear, there isn't new information. There really never has been a original idea. It's a collection of thoughts put into an individual interpretation.
Yes.
And put into the marketplace. And if it has value, it sells. If it don't, it doesn't sell.
That's right.
It's that basic. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
So the book Driven was such a good book. I'm actually interviewing Doug Brockman next week.
Nice.
So I got connected through Strategic Coach, and when I listened to that book, and I'm like screen recording it in the airport coming back from Coach, and I'm just like, just one after another, just my brain is like on fire.
Awesome.
It created so much clarity for me, Kenny. And I'm sure you can relate to this.
Yes.
I mean, that book was like, holy shit. It was in my list of books to read for probably a year. And I clicked on it thinking it was a different book. And once I got 3 minutes into it, I'm like,
you're in.
I got to hang on. This is so good. Yeah.
Going back.
Incredible book. I'm blessed with the opportunity to interview the author, and I can't wait for that. I am excited for that.
Yeah.
But being vulnerable, being willing to face the fear with personal development, the garbage in, garbage out thing I mentioned, whatever you put into your pipeline ultimately depends where your success lies.
Yes.
If you listen to the news, I promise you the news is not making money by singing church hymns and talking about the good stuff happening.
That's right.
They are a chaos platform.
Yep.
If life is good, the news revenue isn't.
Right. Yep.
That in itself should explain that part of it.
There it is.
The food industry. If everybody's healthy and eating whole, natural, organic, good food, they're not making any money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The listeners can take that for what it is, but there's a reason why chaos and garbage generates revenue, because it's addicting.
Yeah.
And it creates habits of negativity that compound into a spiral out of control of a hatred toward life. And you mentioned it earlier with the food. We can't control what's put out there, but we can control what we put in our bodies.
Yes.
The same as our minds.
Yes.
I greatly appreciate that analogy, because you absolutely crushed it with that concept. We are in control of our life, and everything that we have in life, we deserve.
Yes.
We don't deserve anything we don't have, good or bad.
Yeah.
So
love it.
If you have poor health, you deserve that because of your choices. There are outliers. We all have certain things that could happen to us that are out of our control. But at the end of the day, we have what we have because that's what we've earned.
That's right.
And if you want something that you don't have, you haven't deserved it. And it's okay.
Yeah.
If you want it, go get it.
There you go.
Right?
Love it, man.
Kenny, I cannot thank you enough. This was a complete honor. I'm looking forward to future collaborations with you. Where can the listeners find you at? Where are your websites at?
Yeah, easiest is just kennychapman.com or the bluecollarsuccessgroup.com. Those are the two best places to see me and what we do at Blue Collar. And just, it's such an honor to be here with you, Jacob. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And do yourself a favor and our entire industry a favor and share this with somebody.
Yes.
Share this so more people get to hear what's going on in the blue collar space and support this podcast. So thank you for having me on, Jacob.
Absolute honor. I appreciate it once again, Kenny. And I'm going to leave it with you to wrap up the show. Blue Collar Nation out there, from Kenny Chapman's perspective, what can we do as a collective group to create awareness and value and help others find an opportunity within this blue collar workforce? So for you, Kenny, give me your give me your quick pitch to everyone out there that's just lost in life, maybe want an opportunity, and what can they see and what can they feel and be a part of within the blue collar workforce?
I think there's an opportunity to set aside the old school driven fear competition type perspective and lean into a place of authenticity, collaboration, earning a good income, feeling good about what you do for a living, and being supported by like-minded, also driven peers that are actually doing things every day that absolutely make the world a better place. And that's a really good way to make a living. And we all need currency to survive, and that's what I believe exists in the blue collar space.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pioneer of the Blue Collar Success Group, Kenny, thank you again. Everybody, I hope you took some notes. Iron and Infrastructure Podcast, and we're out. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.